Good afternoon, guys. It's Kurt Capra here with today's daily recap. And so, just as reference, in yesterday's daily recap, I had mentioned that it was good that the S&P closed above the top of the range. That was a positive first step, and we would need to see if we could get follow through today. I also noted that the Russell, which was lagging, recovered yesterday, pushed up to the top of the range, and that we would need to see how that responded to the resistance. Would it back off or follow through? And so, overall, it was a really positive day. S&P and Qs all-time highs, which got some lift on the Trump tax talks. That certainly helped and pushed everything up. And then the Russell here, I'll show you that real quick here before we get back to the S&P, but the Russell here also got the follow through, pushed up, came within like 2 points of all-time highs as well. So you can also see it got above this very gradual declining trend line that it had been stalling at. So this was a really positive outcome today for not just the Russell, but also the markets in general. It was also able to close above it. So now we see, can it get some additional follow through before pulling back in? Because what we have to realize is that we did come from basically the bottom of the range here up through the top. And anytime that happens, you can begin to expect there's going to be a stall in momentum. That being said, the day in general for the Russell wasn't all that impressive from how much it moved. It wasn't like yesterday where it rallied higher and had this really nice push. And this was a very controlled move up, and spent a lot of the day kind of just creating new reference points. So that is positive. Now, going back to the S&P here, you can see that also this move has been very controlled, very gradual in the way in which it's moved up, which really is what you want to see. If it had just ripped higher, that would have opened the door to a more significant sell-off, similar to what happened back here at the end of January, where we had this big rally higher from the bottom of the range, and then once it gapped down here, it just sold right back off. Right here, we've actually got a couple reference points to use should this pull back, as opposed to just go sideways. So as I said, all in all, this is a really positive day following a breakout from a range. So now we see, can this continue to move higher next week? And just speaking of next week, right, look at this weekly chart. Not only did we close strong, but we closed above last week's little inside bar and at the top of this week's range. So it seems as though we're beginning to slowly but surely gain more traction, and we'll see if next week can really propel markets higher. Okay. So that being said, let's take a look at where some of the action was here today. You got gold, which after opening lower and into support rallied. Not a whole lot to say right there. It was able to rally nicely. Let's take a real quick peek here at the hourly. All right, the hourly is potentially putting in a lower high here. So if it breaks under this 117.20 level next week, then we could start to see additional follow through down to around 116. If not, and it starts taking out today's high, then we will, in all likelihood, easily see a move back up to the top of the range. And then from there, right, we will assess and take it a step at a time. Also, oil, USO. This has been really sloppy. For lack of a better word, it's been all over the place. I had this pennant type formation that I had highlighted in past videos. It broke out above the top of it, indicating that it was going to try and move higher, then quickly fell back down through the bottom of it decisively, and now it's come all the way back up, hitting this resistance. So like I said, I mean, it's been up, indicating it wanted to move up. Then that turned out to be a failure. It started to move lower. That also has failed. So now the question is, will the failure of the failure result in some follow-through? We'll have to wait and see, because this is clearly our key resistance at this point, this area right here around 1165-ish. And so that's the line in the sand that we want to be paying attention to for any upside potential. And then also the financials, XLF. This one was a bit of a laggard today. It really did not get in participation with the broader markets. So there is, I don't want to say concern there, but definitely an observation that needs to be made as far as that goes. And in all fairness, maybe this stalling is actually a positive, because should it break out next week, that will help give the market even more confidence. So the way this is happening may very well be very strategic overall. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then also IBB really just didn't go anywhere after yesterday's strength. It's hanging up here at the top of the resistance, which is fine. No real concern there. And we'll see if it can start to follow through some more going into next week. Right. And before wrapping this up, just want to highlight two individual names here. Twitter, after the earnings yesterday and sell-off, gap down again, broke this support, so now it's clearly below this area. And if we look at the weekly chart, is in all likelihood coming all the way back down to these lows around 1360-ish. There seems to be really no reason why it wouldn't do that. I mean, look at this weekly chart. It moved up at the beginning of the week and then came and took out last week's high, only to then turn back down, take out last week's low. So seriously shocking the expectations of those who would have gotten involved on the break to the upside, creating a nice little failure here that should, as I said, follow through lower down to this prior low here. That said, it may not happen, especially the first part of next week, but it may not happen at all next week, because look, you've come from up here all the way down. That's gone a long distance in a short period of time. It may need to rest a little bit. All right, so we'll keep an eye on this one. It may be very good from an intraday point of view, just not from a swing aspect at this point. And then finally, real quick, just want to hit on the NVIDIA, which opened higher, but then completely sold off, engulfing yesterday's candle, also the prior couple of days at that, and took out multiple levels of support. So this NVIDIA here is potentially at the point now where you've got this double top in place on the daily chart, and looking at the weekly, you can see also the potential beginnings of the double top. We'll see if next week we start taking out these lows, and then do we come back to test this $98 level, $98 to $99 level. So that's something to definitely keep on the radar as we move into next week. How does NVIDIA handle the weakness that it got today? So hope you guys had a great week and enjoy the weekend. Scott will be back with you for the morning call on Monday. So until then, have a great day and take care.